Morning everyone, it's me as Jess if you didn't know, and I'm going to tell the next part of our missionary story. So what I'm going to do is a recap. I'm going to tell the story so far with some mistakes, because I know at club you guys like nothing more than shouting at me that I'm wrong, so see how many mistakes you can spot. Right, our missionary is called Mary Slessor. That's because she blessed many people. Her father couldn't support her family and later died while she was still quite young, so Mary had to go to work in a factory before school. Her least favourite part of the week was going to church on Sunday. Mary became a Christian, and one day she heard a missionary speak, and she knew what God wanted her to do. She was sent to Antarctica to tell the gospel to the penguins. When she got there, she set up a school. Her school started at 10:30 in the morning. She also took in lots of twin babies and told the gospel to many people. Our missionary is called Mary Slessor.
Her name was Mary Slessor.
Her father couldn't support her family and later died while she was still quite young, so Mary had to go to work in a factory before school. Her least favourite part of the week was going to church on Sunday.
Mary loved church.
Mary became a Christian, and one day she heard a missionary speak, and she knew what God wanted her to do. She was sent to Antarctica to tell the gospel to the penguins.
To Africa, to the people.
When she got there, she set up a school. Her school started at 10:30 in the morning.
Her school started at 5:30 in the morning.
She also took in lots of twin babies and told the gospel to many people. So Mary wanted to move into a new area that, it had missionaries go there before, actually. It hadn't gone great. One of them, the people there had captured him and held him to ransom, which basically means they tied him up and said, yeah, you can't have him back unless you pay us lots of money. So he barely escaped. And the other one, a teacher, had gone in and they chased him out with guns. So that was great. Mary decided, place for me to go. And a few traders said, they're crazy. What are you doing? Don't go there. But Mary knew that this was where God needed her to go, because these people needed to hear what Jesus had done for them. And she had a Bible verse.
When I am afraid, I will trust in you. I trust in God. I will not be afraid. What can people do to me?
Even so, Mary was a little bit nervous when she went to meet the chief of this area, Chief Adim. She had no idea what it would be like. She'd heard terrible things about him, so she entered the village, a little bit not sure, and as it happened, the chief smiled. He actually bowed to her and said, "It's wonderful to have you with us. We have a house for you if you'd like to stay. You're very welcome. We've heard great things about you." And Mary was kind of blown away. Oh my gosh, I didn't think it would be that easy. Thank you, God. Amazing. So she started work. She actually made really good friends. She was like BFFs with the chief's sister, Ma Amy. And she told the gospel to all the people about how Jesus had died so that they could be forgiven for the bad things they'd done, that they could be friends with God again. And people did listen, and she was really hopeful. And every time there was trouble, her friend Ma Amy would send, they had like a secret code. If there were some twins that needed rescuing or a fight that needed stopping, Ma Amy would send a medicine bottle, and Mary would see it and be like, "What? Time to go," and would go and sort out whatever trouble there was. So things were looking not too bad. She decided it was time that she'd better move there permanently, and move up. That meant, unfortunately, moving all of her kids across the jungle is a bit of a trek. So she had to borrow some canoes, and they had to trek through the night. There were dangerous creatures, and it was, can you imagine doing that with all these babies, with these little kids going through the mud? She had to really reassure them and say that Jesus was with them. There weren't actually any crocodiles, but I wanted to include a cuddly toy. They arrived finally at the village where they would have their new place to live, and nobody was there. Bit different welcome to last time. It turned out they'd all gone to a funeral, and the things that they did at funerals were not, they're not things that Mary herself would have done. They would sometimes fight each other. They would drink too much, and like Richard said in the first video, that can make you not in control of yourself and make some bad choices. So the next day, it was Sunday. Mary got ready for church, set up, ready to kids, we're going to sing. And nobody came. So, baby steps. She was able to tell the gospel to the people. They hadn't completely accepted it yet. But one day, Mary got a message from another chief nearby, Chief Okur. He was really ill, and he had sent to get her to come and help him because the kind of medicine and the people he was relying on usually wasn't working. So Mary was delighted. Off she went to try and help him. And in the background, the usual healers were there. Why are you sending for someone else? It's because your medicine wasn't working, mate. So Mary prayed. Mary did what she could. And actually, after a while, the chief started to get better. God had answered. God had healed him. And he understood that actually this wasn't just a coincidence, that this was due to Mary coming all this way, Mary using her skills and God moving, because it's God ultimately that heals people. And he said, "Ma, we want to learn your book." And she's, "Oh, you mean the Bible? Absolutely, let's do this." So just like that, another village had heard the gospel. It was incredible. So then she heard that the other chief was sick back in the village that she stayed in, Chief Adam. Okay, so she hurried back, and he'd also asked the local healers to try and heal him in a way that was not really honouring to Jesus. And she said, "But I thought you'd ask God." She said, Didn't you listen? Haven't I been explaining that you can trust him, you can rely on him, but you've gone back to your old ways? He's like, yeah, please heal me anyway, please help. So of course she did try and help him, and she prayed, and he did feel better as well. And so they had a massive party, yay, and they fought each other, and they did things they shouldn't do. And Mary started to wonder, what's the point? I'm working so hard, I'm trying to show these people how great God is and that he can help, and they just keep turning back to doing bad things and hurting each other. Mary had met a few chiefs by now, but she hadn't met, like, the big chief, the boss chief, Chief Njeri. Everyone was a bit scared of him. He was powerful. He didn't have a reputation as being the nicest man, and Mary soon saw that for herself. When he rocked into the village with all his soldiers, just took drinks and food for himself, and they just took their food, took their drink, got drunk, started fighting each other. I mean, with knives and everything, and the local villagers didn't want to get involved. They were too scared to say, "Excuse me, that's ours. Would you mind awfully not doing it?" So, they didn't want anything to do with it. They very sensibly stepped back. Mary wasn't that sensible. Mary had had enough. Mary saw these people hurting themselves, continuing to just hurt themselves, and she decided she was going in. So she headed in, marched right up to the chief, and she literally grabbed him by the arm and said, "Go home." So there's the big chief, right, of the area. He's decked out with weapons. He's got guns, he's got knives. He could have killed her with his bare hands, probably. He's got this small white woman hanging off his arm. And he doesn't kill her. I think it was probably shock, just like, what is happening? In fact, he decided, all right, well, we'll go then. And he and his men got up, turned around, and walked out of the village. Miraculous, literally, thank you. Mary wasn't finished there. She wanted to follow them to make sure they were actually going. And as they walked out of the village, and they kept going, she followed them down the trail as they're off. And they saw something that made the big chief, the scary man of the area, yell out in terror. He had seen something frightening. And I can show you it now, if you're brave. Maybe I should. No, it's all right. You guys are strong. He had seen... Oh, wait, no, not that. Be a bit with. Let's be a shark. It's scarier than that. Are you ready? It's a banana! Ah! I'm not joking. It was actually a banana plant in the road. Now, I don't understand this tradition, I have to say, but he was certain it was a curse or a spell. There was a banana tree there, and he was sure that a local village was trying to put a spell on him, and he was not happy. Mary was not impressed, because, there are some things in this world, but if we didn't have God on our side, it would be a little bit scary. But actually, we don't need to worry about spells or curses or things like that, because we've got God, who's much more powerful than any of that. So Mary walked in ahead and went, ugh, pulled out the banana tree, was like, "Are you happy now? Can you just leave? I'm just going to take this." And off she headed. A short time later, a messenger appeared back in the village. It was a few days later, And the messenger said, "Big Chief and Jury, he wants that banana plant. I mean, it's been used for spells and curses and stuff. We want it because it's got magical properties, so we give it to us, please." And Mary, she knew that if she didn't give it to them, they would come and hurt people. So she just had to give the witch banana to the messenger. And off he went. And a little while later, he came back. "Chief and Jury is coming to attack you. He's going to make war on you for all of this. He's not happy." So what else could Mary do at this point except just go and pray? She said, "Lord, I've tried everything. I don't know what to do. I'm just one person. I can't tell him to go away again. No, it's not gonna. God, I understand now. It's not me that can help these people. It's not me that can change these people's lives. It's not me that can stop this fight. It's only you. And I have to ask, please, please, can you stop this? Please, can you help these people?" And a short time after that, the messenger came back and said, "Oh, good news. Chief and Jury, he's feeling much better, and he says he won't have a war today. All right, bye." And off he went. And just like that, God had come through again and had answered Mary's prayer, because he had more plans for this area. Although it was slow work, and sometimes that's the case in all countries with so many different people, right? It takes time sometimes to understand fully who God is and to come to believe in him. So Mary knew she had to keep going. So her next step was that she wasn't going to give up. She wasn't going to leave. So she wanted actually her own house, not a house that the chief had given to her. And she'd said this a few times. And Chief Adam was like, "Yeah, tomorrow. And so she'd come tomorrow and he'd be like, "Yeah, tomorrow. So she just sort of rolled her sleeves up and said, "All right. I mean, I'm just going to start building then." So she got some bricks together and started working. And so, then all the villagers could see this small woman just kind of building her own house. And they felt quite ashamed. So they kind of helped her and build a house. Amazing! It was a really nice house too. And the other effect, even better, was that a neighbouring village had said she could have a church, but they kept saying, "Yeah, tomorrow. But when they saw that, they built her a house. Yeah, let's get started on that church. We didn't want to look bad." And so pretty soon Mary had her own purpose-built church. And she was able to hold her first service in it. She wanted to make it something really special. She gave clothes to the people. She made a rule that you couldn't bring your weapons into church. And she was able to have a real church service. And it was a real blessing. But the work was still going on. She still had all these kids to look after. The chief hadn't entirely come around yet. What was going to happen next? And you'll have to come back next week to find out. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.